Welcome back to my channel. So in the previous tutorial, we discussed about the page structure and the document structure and how different section inside your document map to different parts of your HTML and how basically we can create a new documents and how those documents basically translated into page and how the URL is formed from those documents, like based on your content hierarchy, how the URL is coming. So that all we discuss. In today's video, we will discuss about the page structure, sorry, the project structure that is coming out of box from the boilerplate code. And then we will also discuss how we can set up the local server so that we don't have to commit changes every time to see that on our website. Okay, so I've already checked out my GitHub code, so you can also check out and then and open. I have opened it in a VS Code editor. Okay, so let me go through some important files and then I'll talk about those important files. Okay. So first file that I want to discuss is fstab.yaml. So I think I've already covered this file in the previous video where we basically changed the mount point to our content directory. So basically this is used to make a connection with your content where your content is basically with your Google Drive or the SharePoint Drive location. Okay, so using this fstab.yaml file, it basically lets the code know where your content is. So this is a connection between your code and content. Then uh, .hlx ignore file is basically what happens, like all the files which are present here, right, in your code structure, it's accessible through browser, right? For example, if I try to access this for example any particular icon, right? So let me try to use the same structure here also in the URL, and this will be accessible. And suppose if I want to access any particular scripts, for example this script am.js, then that can also be accessed. Scripts, okay, so you can see you can access it. So basically what this .hlx ignore file do, if you want to keep some of the file private, or reason can be anything, whether like you don't want to as I mentioned, you want to keep it private, or those are basically not necessary for rendering your on the browser, right? So that you can mention here in this particular file, and that will not be then available directly through browser. For example, if I try to access this package.json file, it will throw, basically it will not be available. See, so that is the job of this particular file, and the format is similar to the format of this file similar to gitignore file. So, and we already know what gitignore is, right? So we will not discuss this. Coming to this 404 is basically when you try to access any page, and if that page is not available, right, that will basically gives the 404 error, and then we want to show some page, right, for 404, and that design of this page can be changed as per your project need, right? So that is coming basically from this 404.html. Favicon is basically this icon here, and if you want to by default this icon is coming from boilerplate code, and if you want to change this favicon, right, to your uh, specific to your project or your site, you can change it. So we'll do this change when we make the local setup, right? I'll show you that. And this head.html is basically, you can say, the entry point of the EDS. Here all the important scripts which are needed for functional, needed for your EDS to work properly, right? All the logic of your product you can say is available in these particular scripts. So there are like three main scripts are added, like aem.js, script.js, and style.css. So style.css basically contains all your global CSS related information that it is available here. Okay. So all the global CSS is avail added here, and which is basically needed for LCP events. So basically, I'll talk about this, like what is this LCP event, and basically loading of your web page is divided into three phases in EDS, like eager, lazy, and delayed. So I'll talk about this. So this style is .css and style and script.js. They basically contains the global JavaScript and global CSS related things. Okay, and this am.js contains code related to loading of your blogs related CSS and JS and a lot of other things. So you can have a look into these files. Okay, so and this head section is basically responsible of like this head.html. It's rendered inside the head section of your web page. For example, if I open the go to your main page, and if I show you view page source, whatever comes here it's coming from the head.html. Okay, so and it is recommended from Adobe to not add any third-party libraries or any analytics or tag manager related scripts here, or any custom scripts here, because that is absolutely necessary for your website performance. Okay, so that it maintain its performance. So you should not add, basically should be untouched until and unless absolutely necessary. Okay, but try to avoid your any third party or custom library adding it here. Where we can add it, I'll discuss this. Okay, where we need to add it. So this is the head.html. Now let me close this and coming to these folders then. So GitHub basically here what happens, right? When you commit anything, right? There's some checks happen, some GitHub workflow run basically, and it do some kind of lint checks and all those things. So this is basically coming from here. Suppose you want to remove the lint check, right? And I'll show this in action. Like when I commit anything, I'll show you how, like from where you can check. For example, I can show you here also. If I go to here and I go to action, there I have made multiple commits. Okay, if you see there, every time you make a commit, there this workflow runs. So once I make something, I'll show this in action. So that is coming from here. This file basically runs when you create a repository. So if you want to either ideally should not make any change here, because this is basically some kind of like guardrails or checks on your code and or that you are making, so that nothing breaks the performance of your website and everything adhere to the best practice. So that's why these things are placed here. But if you are doing something in your local and something is keep on failing and you want to avoid that, right? Then uh, basically, and if you want to check something very quickly on your site, then maybe you can disable some of the checks from here. So that is that. I'll come to block little later. First, I'll discuss about these as I mentioned, right? The script.js and basically contains your and .aem.js contains your EDS related logic, and it is also your global JavaScript is added here, and then aem.js basically responsible for loading the blocks and all those things. Okay, and delayed.js basically all your third-party libraries like analytics related or GTM or any chat related, chatbot related JS, any other JS third-party JS, you need to add it here. Okay, and similarly, style.css contain the global CSS information and the minimal global layout information that is needed basically for LCP event. So that is present here. Lazy style.css, you can add any other post the LCV event, any other CSS that you want to add or write, or you want to add any third party fonts, that things you can add it here. So these are related these scripts and the styles. Icons, basically, if you want to add any icons, right, in your website, then you can add those here. And icon, basically, authoring of icon is, I think I've not shown in the previous video, so I'll just show how you can access those icons. Basically, there's a syntax here. Suppose by default this search.svg come, right, which basically you can see here on the home page. 1 second. Let me refresh it. So, what happened? Okay, some issue here. No problem. Let me uh, publish this page document again. Somehow header footers are not loading. So what I'll do? Let me okay publish this index footer in nav preview. Preview done. Let me publish it. Okay. Not sure what is happening here. Let me try to access the dot page extension. Okay, so not sure what is happening. I'll check that with the live pages. But if you see here, uh, this this icon here, okay. So this is coming from that icon folder, and there's a technique how you can add any particular icon. For example, let me try to use this custom icon which I've added, like settings.svg and camera.svg. For example, if I go here, so there's a in the first section, right? I'll try. So there's a syntax like you need to add this double colon, then the icon name. For example, camera dot camera. You don't need to add the svg extension, and then and with the double colon again, colon, and then save it. Okay, and if I preview it, you can see this icon is added here. Similarly, suppose if I want to add one more icon, like the other one which I added settings, I can just add it like here, and so that is also. So that's how basically you add it. Okay, so that was about the icons, and these are related to all the fonts which are out of box and this project. So that is for that. And coming to blocks, like it will this blocks folder will contain all the blocks that is present uh, in your for your project, right? So this is right now is having all the out of box blocks which are coming as part of AEM boilerplate code. Okay, so we can have like cards, column, footer, fragment, header, and suppose you are adding any other custom blocks or you're creating custom, you will add those blocks here. And these blocks basically, as I mentioned in the previous video also, like this name should be consistent. Like if you are like your block name will have block name, your folder name basically same will have the same name as your block name, and your file names also use the same name. And this is basically used during the loading of the block. And why, as I mentioned in the previous video, I'll tell you why it is necessary. So if I show you here, when any particular block is loaded, it is basically search for that particular block name. If you see, this is the how CSS loading here. It's searching for the block name dot CSS. Similarly, block name dot JS. So if you so that's why it is if you give some other name, it will not be able to load any block related CSS or JS. So that is why you need to add keep the name same. So so this is all the blocks basically will be present under this block folders. Okay, and then you can add CSS and JS for that particular block. So this is basically all the important files and folders that comes out of box, and this is basically the default structure that comes. Definitely when you're working on the real project, you can add other files as per your, and there are some other things also, some other files also which I'll talk about in the upcoming tutorial when I talk about those particular topics. For example, indexing and then sitemap and all, uh, query index and all those things. So I'll be making separate videos for that. Then I'll add those files and talk about those files. Okay. So this is basically covers all the important files that you should be knowing that. Okay, and now let me set up my local. Okay, basically because right now if I want to make any change, I want to basically commit it, then and then only I can see the changes on my website. Okay, so what I'll do, uh, basically there's few prerequisite for setting up your local. For example, you should have this Node.js and npm installed, and you should have your Git code checked out in your local. Okay, so the first step is basically you need to install this Adobe command line interface. So it is already installed in my system, but let me show you how you can run this basically from the root of your project. Like I've already opened that in CMD, and you can run this command. And basically, if it is not installed in your system, it will install it. If it is already installed, it will basically try to update the version. So it takes some time. So let's wait for that. So once your command line interface is installed, right, that's it. And after that, you just need to run this command aem up, right, from the root of your project, and that basically start your local server. So let this command finish, then we can run the next command, that aem up. Okay, so that is finished. Let me run this the next command, aem up. That is basically start my local server, and it will proxy it to the dot page URL. Basically, the pages which served through inner CDN, right? The same thing. It proxies to. For example, you can see here also. Actually, I was doing some changes in my local. That's why there's some issue in the footer and header. That's why this is coming. But if you see here, and that is why you that my header and footer was not loading from the live side. I'll check that out after the tutorial. But no, not an issue. Anyway, I'm not doing anything in the header footer. But there's some issue. I was doing some changes, and maybe because of that, it breaks something. So I need to check that. But if you see. It is proxying to enable reverse proxy to this .am.page, basically your inner CDN URL. Okay, so and that's how basically the same page I can now access through localhost 3000 about us. You can see it is coming here. And now suppose I want to make any changes. For example, let me go to the global CSS. And this is the background color. For example, if I add it, change it to, sorry, green and save it, it immediately reflected here. I don't even need to refresh it. So that is how you can set up your local. And I'll also show you suppose what happens when you commit it, right? Like how uh, that Git workflow runs. So let me commit this. So I've already saved it. Okay. So what I'll do, git commit, update it, give some message, styles.css, and git push. So it is pushed to main branch directly here. If I go here, if we see, if I refresh it, you can see this is now this is running. This workflow is running here. This is basically doing those all those lint checks and all those things. And if any issues in your syntax and every or anything when you are trying to modify these file, it if lint checks fail, it will tell you okay it failed. So right now it passed, but for example, let me add uh, any spaces here, right, or some. And if I commit this file now, it will tell you, okay, this lint checks fail. So if I'll again, it is pushed, and if it should fail this time, means let's wait for it. If it is not fail, then we'll try to add something else which fails it. Basically, I will just want to show how what happens. Okay, this time also it worked. Let me do something else. Just trying, guys. I'm just trying to break it. Okay. Let let us try one more time. Otherwise, let me check the code here. I will not try after that, but I think you got the gist. Basically, do some kind of checks. Okay, and I remember doing some changes for one of my POC project, and it was keep on failing. And I made some. Actually, I'm not a like front end guy. So I don't have that much knowledge related to the front CSS, JS, and all those things. So you can see it is failed here. And what is the message? If I go to build, this lint checks basically failed. Okay, so that is how it is saying expected empty line before comment, expected white space after this, and all those things. So I think you got the gist. Let me revert all these changes. Okay, and so I reverted all the changes, but you can see how basically you can make the changes and how this GitHub workflow run. And one more thing that I want to talk about, basically, as I mentioned, when your page is loading, right? It divided EDS basically divided into three phase loading so that it maintains the performance. So the first phase is eager phase where it will load only the things which are needed for LCP. LCP is basically largest contentful page. That is basically one of the parameter for your Google Lighthouse score, and that is also used inside the page speed inside. So, uh, so, so as I mentioned, in the eager phase, it only loads things. For example, style.css, script.js, and am.js, which are absolute necessary for LCP. And for this, we need to get this LCP score. Like we should be keeping these file very small, right? So that it can be loaded very fast. Then there's this after eager there's this lazy phase where all the other css and all the other scripts like your block related scripts and your font and all those things that basically loads. Okay, and in the last phase, delayed phase where everything else like your third-party libraries and all those things where maybe you are connecting to any other domain also, those things basically load in the delayed phase. And all those things are mentioned here also, means you can check the codes of these two scripts and you will get you will get some idea. If I go show these things, right? Like load eager, load lazy, and load delayed. So as I mentioned, dot delayed.js basically load in the delayed phase. So this is now when I directly making changes in the main branch, but this is not the good development practice. So what happens, you should be normally what happens, what is the process that we follow? Basically, we create a feature branch and then we work on that and then we raise a PR once our work is done. So the same process you should be following it here. And basically what happens when you create a PR, uh, it basically internally runs a workflow that basically checks your GitHub your pull request score. Basically, you will it will your like for every branch there will be new site URL created. Like basically, as you remember, the site URL is basically containing your branch name, then repository name, and then your username, right? So it automatically fails your PR if your page speed score is not 100%. So let me show that in running. So I'll create a new branch. So git checkout hyphen b, maybe training. This is my branch, and I'll make some changes uh, in this readme.file training test. Updated readme file, then git push, and pushing that to training branch. Now if I go to GitHub repository, okay, and you can see after I reverted that style.css, uh, it basically passed, and I mentioned as I created a new branch, right? So that basically create a new you can say new website for that particular branch. So that's on that basically this cleanup on create.yaml runs, and then it is building now. But let me go to that branch. Okay, training branch is available here, and I can if I create a pull request, I need to provide these two URL also. If your pull request template is not correct, then also basically your pull request fail. So I need to give this URLs. So I'll give this, and here I'll mention the live URL, and then here I'll change the branch as sorry. Okay, and then I'll create the pull request. And it is doing this checks here. You can see AEM page speed insight checks in progress, and it passed. If it is like there's some buffer, so if it is between 90 to 100, it will pass. It will, if it is between 50 to 89, it gives you warning, and if it is 0 to 49, and it will fail. Okay, and so that's how basically you should be following. Like for every new feature, you should be creating feature branch and then doing checking like this. And if I mention my that site will be available now. If you see here, it is available using this training branch also. Okay, so that is how basically you do development in your local. Okay, and yes, I forgot to mention one thing, right? I mentioned like I'll be showing how you can change the favicon. So this is the default favicon that comes out of box. Okay, so let me change it. So I have this favicon downloaded. You can have favicon related to your project or your site, and this is my code, right? So there is this out of box favicon that basically have this Adobe symbol. I'm just replacing that with my custom favicon, and as my local server is already running, it's immediately reflecting here, you can see. So that is how you can basically have the favicon for custom favicon for your website. So this is one way. Another way is like this is the recommended and out of box way. Another way is like adding directly into the hit.html, but you should follow this out of box way which is available. Okay, so that's it for this particular video. If you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe my channel, and that will basically give me motivation to keep improving my videos and making new videos on the new topics. Thanks. See you in the next tutorial.